the Penguin House. Again, my name is Chrissy. We have Emily, and we have Tony from DigiPhoto. I will let her explain what she's doing today.
We take a picture of you guys, cut the penguins, and then let you guys go down to Sharky's Cafe. You check them out over there. Tell me your 3 o'clock people time.
Alright, now I know you didn't come here to meet us. You came here to meet the penguins, so I will formally introduce you, starting with our youngest. Right here doing the fluff and shake is Speckles. She has a white band and red, pink band and white speckles down her back. We have her sister Sandy over here. She has a yellow band and a white cowlicks on the back of her head. They are both 5 years old. And we have our 6-year-olds, our food group. Right here is Blueberry. She has a blue band and a big white spot on her tail. Her sister Red Pepper's over here in the corner with the red band and one single white feather on the very top of her head. And their sister Green Bean is over here against the wall. When she comes out, she is wearing a green band and has one single black spot on her belly. They are all 6 years old. Then we have our oldest 3 penguins, our original American Idol judges. We have little Miss Paula right here in front of me with that black band, what we call her pearl earrings on the side of her head. We have Randy, who's over here in the corner. If she comes out, she has a light blue band and she has a black mark on her neck. We call it her bow tie. And of course, we have Simon. Simon is right here with this orange band and he has a really big beak. They are all 8 years old. Now before Emily brings the bird around for you guys to touch, I want to remind you how cool you are. You are in a room full of penguins. But even cooler than that, you guys are in a room full of an endangered species. These are African black-footed penguins. They live along the coast of South Africa. They estimate that in about 10 to 15 years, without any human help, they will go extinct. Now, if you went to South Africa right now and you did this, you touched one of those wild penguins, that is at least a $10,000 fine per bird involved, as well as up to 2 years in federal prison. So thank goodness you're in Newport, Kentucky instead of in South Africa, right? So without further ado, Emily is going to let you guys break the law. Not really. Not here. Still illegal here. Now, does anyone have any questions right off the bat? How old do they live? How old do they live? That's a good question. In the wild, it's about 15 to 20 years. In captivity, they can live into their 30s. The oldest African penguin in captivity right now lives in Colorado. She is 40 years old. So, they live a good long life.
Great.
Did anyone think that it was going to be cold in here?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, when you think of penguins, we think of March of the Penguins and the cold and the ice and the snow. But there are 18 different species of penguins. 7 of those 18 live in warm climates. Of course, including these ladies here. So because they do live in Africa, they like temperatures between 60 and 100 degrees. They can take it even hotter than that. We keep this room at a very comfortable 70 degrees. So because they live in a warm climate, it gets pretty toasty on the beach, right? What's interesting about these guys is they have just as many feathers per square inch as a cold weather penguin. So that means they have a lot of feathers. If I put my thumb on any of these penguins, there are about 100 feathers just underneath my thumb. It gets hot underneath all those feathers. So they have some really cool ways of cooling off. So we can tell really well on Green Bean over here. Green Bean has that pink area above her eye. That is bare skin. So when they get too hot, blood will go to the skin, cool off, and then recirculate. That helps cool down their body temperature. They are also wearing shorts. I'm crazy here. Cold weather penguins have feathers that go all the way down to the base of their ankles. For these guys, it cuts off a little bit shorter. Again, there's more skin area to release that heat. They also do something super cute. We saw Speckles do it earlier in the encounter. It's called the fluff and shake. They lift up all their feathers and they do a big shimmy. It's like us doing this with our t-shirt. By pushing out all of the hot air that's underneath their feathers that also helps cool them down. Now another thing we like to talk about with our penguins here is how much they eat. They are the biggest eaters at the aquarium. So they go through about 22% of their body weight on their very hungriest day. That's about $40 bill size fish. So ton of food. Simon up there holds our record. She ate 41 fish in one day. Now because they eat so much food, they have a really high metabolism, so they go through that waste very quickly. I washed down the floor right before you guys came back here. It's already starting to look a little bit messy, right?
Oh yeah.
On average, once every 15 to 20 minutes, a penguin will poop. Gross, I know. Simon also holds the record for that. I'm assuming it was the same day as the 41 fish. She pooped 4 times in 10 minutes. Oh my God. Yeah. So they get really messy. they live on the beach. There's not a whole lot of shelter around on the beach, right? So they will poop in the sand, they mix it up, it hardens like concrete in the sun, and then they dig out a hole. It's called a burrow. It's where they lay their eggs and raise their chicks. Unfortunately, in the 1930s and 40s, farmers found out that their guano is a really great fertilizer. So they would go on the beach, literally take apart their homes and bring them back to their farms, and would leave the penguins vulnerable on the beach. So unfortunately, that is the start of their decline. Since then, there's been a lot of habitat loss. This is an actual picture of Boulder Beach, one of the beaches they live on. You see all the housing in the background. Well, over time, we have taken away a lot of their space so that we can build our own homes. There's introduced species, cats and dogs. They go on the beach and they bring home presents for their owners. They happen to be penguins. Roadways, they get hit by cars, overfishing, and oil spills. There is a huge oil spill on the coast of Africa in 2000. It did a lot of damage for the species. Fortunately, there is good news. There are organizations out there to help preserve the species. One in particular is SANCOB. It is the Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds. Back in that oil spill, they saved about 40% of the population that was affected. So they did a lot of good back then, and you guys are doing a lot of good just by coming back here and hanging out with us today. A portion of the price of your ticket goes directly to SANCOB. We've been able to give them a lot of money so that they can help with their penguin rehabilitation program. And our ladies here would love to thank you for helping out their wild cousins by taking a photo with you. They are fantastic photo takers. So Emily's going to bring around the photo rock. We're going to place it in front of your group, put a penguin on there. Tony's going to snap a few photos. A few things about the rock. It is a no-touch zone. We don't want to worry about the penguins losing their balance and falling off. Also, there is a splash zone associated with the rock. Just because they're higher up, their digestion does not stop. So if anything gets on you, I promise it is very washable. We'll help clean you up. And it's good luck to be pooped on by a bird, especially a penguin. And the rock will take a great time for questions if anyone has any.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do they molt like other birds?
They do molt. So they molt once a year, and it's the same as other birds. So their new feathers are growing in and pushing out the old ones.
Do they lose like one at a time?
They usually start from their head down, and they lose a bunch at a time. So it kind of looks like penguin explodes when they lose a lot of their feathers.
Do they look like they're like naked basically?
It kind of looks like they have a buzz cut, so they aren't completely naked, but their feathers are definitely shorter. During that time, they also can't go swimming because they're not oil coated. Their feathers aren't long enough. They get hypothermia if they did. So right before the molting process, they have to bulk up on food. So they eat a bunch for about a month, and then bulk up to get a nice layer of fat, so that they can go 6 weeks without eating.
Oh wow.
How much time do they actually spend swimming? In the wild, it's about half and half. So they spend about half their life on land, half their life out at sea. Here, these guys don't really swim that much. So, because we hand feed them, they don't have to hunt for their own food. They don't have to go swimming. It's not a necessity. So these guys really only go swimming if they really want to, or if they're really dirty, they'll go in and take a bath. So they are way more interested in checking out you guys and all the different shoes and socks and whatever all is going on than swimming. So these guys don't swim all too often. Don't jump in their laps.
I thought I saw, do you paint with them? Because you can see there's red on that one over there.
Yes, the speckles is a little bit hot pink on her legs. They do paint. We do different forms of enrichment with our penguins. So we give them toys to play with. We give them feeder fish in the tank they can chase around. And our paintings. So what we do is we clear off an area in the room. We put puddles of paint on the ground as well as the canvas. And they walk through the paint and walk over the canvas.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so it's something they really enjoy, especially Speckles. Over there. They get really excited to see the paint coming through. It's a really good way of doing form of enrichment, so they're not getting bored. And we sell the paintings in the gift shop. So if you look on the back of the painting, it says who the artist is. So you guys have all met the artists.
Very cool.
And all the proceeds to our penguin paintings also go towards penguin conservation, which is great as well.
Very cool.
Those two penguins are kind of like just like beat to beat. Were they
looking their beaks?
Is that like, were they arguing or are they just like?
Well, they're not arguing. It's kind of like flirtatious. It's an affectionate So they are all female, but they do still pair up. So they all have their best friend. So when they get really excited to see their best friend, they'll flick their beaks, kind of like a greeting. It's also a form of affection. They will preen each other as well. I don't see any of them doing it, but they'll clean each other with their beaks. They have a buddy, so they have all the spots that they can't totally reach taken care of.
Their beaks look, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Their beaks look like they're little.
Trying to think like this.
Is it like a fingernail?
Yeah, it's exactly like a fingernail. So their beaks are made out of keratin. So it's the same protein as our fingernails and our hair. So they are continuously growing and then they chip off. So that's why they all look a little bit different. Simon has a really big, wide beak. She figured out that if she did absolutely nothing to her beak, our vet tech would come in and file for her. So she's a little bit lazy. She doesn't do anything to her beak until the vet tech will come in. The other guys are really good about kind of taking care of it themselves. They rub it against the rock or if they rub it against each other. Also, if they're in the wild and they're swimming in the ocean, this all will help exfoliate their beaks as well. So it's really important for them to maintain their beaks. If they grow too long, it'd be really hard for them to eat. So if they didn't take care of it, they could actually starve. So it's really, really important for them to take care of it.
How did you get this job? 'Cause this is just a really cool job.
Yeah, well, we have people from all walks of life around here. For me in particular, my degree is in psychology. So going towards animal behavior, I really have always wanted to work with animals. So yeah, I landed a kind of a basic exhibit interpreter job here, and then 6 months later, I actually got promoted to working here with these guys. So
Cool.
it's really, really cool. If you guys are ever interested in working with animals, I always recommend volunteering. It's an excellent, excellent way to get involved. Working with these guys, making connections. Our volunteer program, we accept that I think 13, you have to be 13 years old to volunteer here. So if you ever know anyone who wants to come in, we have the Summer Naturals program with the teenagers. So it's a really, really great opportunity to come in, get your foot in the door.
How long did it take for you to actually be able to like pick up?
That's not a good question. It took a while. For me personally, it took a month of me sitting here in there with them, slowly starting to touch them, but not really just sitting in here letting them kind of look at me, get to know me before I actually really started touching them and picking them up, handling them. So it takes a while. These guys are very social birds. They have really dynamic social relationships with each other as well as the people that work with them. So they all have their favorite people. They have their not so favorite people. Like for example,
Well, I was gonna say, do these two like you, Emily?
They get along with me pretty well.
Or do they just like you because you're playing with them?
I've got the toy and these two get along with me okay.
right? So Greenman and I get along really well. Speckles and I do not get along so well. I'm not a favorite person. But if our coworker CJ came in, Speckles loves him. So she would immediately start calling, honking. She does the beat thing with him. So
Can you get one of them to call so we can?
yeah, I have
They might be about to for you.
They're very excited right now.
Aww.
I don't know if I would be able to. I haven't had any success with that. But
I get Randy to now. They looked at me like,
Ooh, you're a penguin.
Is that what it sounds like though? It's like a.
it does, yeah. So actually, a little bit Chewbacca, a little bit donkey. In Africa, they're actually called jack penguins because they bray like a donkey, and they sound like a donkey. It's ridiculous how close the sound is. So if you guys go on YouTube and look up African penguin noises, that's what it's gonna be. It's really, really cool.
They're looking at you. They're like, I mean, the rest of us just think you're a little crazy. It's fine.
So why is she lying down? Are they just tired, ready for a nap?
It's
Or
been a long day.
It's been a long day.
It is the end of the day, so they do kind of wind down towards the end. They'll lay down. They do sleep standing up as well, so they do take a few cat naps. But it looks like those guys are just really tired today.
you know, then
Yeah, I don't blame them.
They're sleepy.
Life
They've
is
got a
hard.
long day.
Dry now, so they just-
Yeah.
So, do you like get eggs here? Like, do they
Oh,
breed
yeah.
here
Right
at all?
now.
We are at a breeding facility for this species. We have the 5 species of penguin downstairs. The 4 other penguins they do breed, so there are a few eggs down there right now. These guys actually do still lay eggs, even though they're not fertile,
Right.
kind of like chickens. So that happens every once in a while. We will actually let them sit on the egg for a few months after they lay it, so that they have that experience.
Right.
These guys are part of an SSP, it's a species survival plan. It's like eHarmony for penguins. So they are in the database. And if Paula's Prince Charming pops up in the database, then we would send her away to that facility to breed. But right now, their bloodline's well enough represented, so there's no real need to breed them right now. But if we did, we would send her up. She'd have some beautiful little Paula babies. But they're all really, really young right now. They have a long life ahead of them. They have plenty of time to be moms. They could also be used as foster parents as well, in case ever popped up.
How tall is the biggest African penguin?
How tall is the biggest?
Yeah, like it like would it
That
be
is
about
a really good question.
like the one what I can't see the
I know,
man.
it's like,
The one that's
that one looks pretty tall.
yeah.
Yeah, Randy's
but that's
probably our tallest.
okay.
Here, I don't know in general, the tallest ever. Probably not much bigger than what they are now. Our heftiest, she didn't molt for a couple years, so finally she did molt recently. But before then, she's been chunky for a really long time. She's been really, really heavy. Exactly. But she has trimmed down a little bit, but she's still probably one of the heftiest birds that we have. Tallest, most petite, nice and slim and trim. Do we have any other questions?
Let one of them
Yeah,
out.
question? What's your question? That is an excellent question. What do penguins eat? These guys like fish. So in the wild, they can eat things like shrimp and squid and krill. And we try giving those things to these guys here, but they are really picky. So they like their fish. We give them capelin and herring and silver sides and smelt. They really, really like their fish.
Fish sticks.
Fish sticks? Not so much fish sticks. I'll take the whole fish. Do you have a question? Yeah, what's your question? How long do they live? In the wild, it's about 15 years. In captivity, they can live into their 30s and possibly even into their 40s.
Oh.
The oldest African penguin right now is 40 years old. She lives in Colorado. Well, I have a question for you guys. On average, every year, how many penguins are eaten by polar bears? Any guesses? Give me a wild
I
guess.
have no idea. 10.
10.
I don't know.
200.
200. Any guesses?
No.
None?
Oh.
Not a winner.
It's a trick question.
You would think polar bears would eat penguins, right? That seems like a basic polar bear diet. Exactly. They live on the complete opposite ends of the earth. Penguins live on every continent south of the equator. Polar bears live north of the equator. They live in the North Pole, in the Arctic. So,
Well then.
it's a good guess.
No, no penguin friends for polar bears.
Yeah, those Coca-Cola commercials have been lying to me for years.
Oh. True. Yeah. Pepsi's better.
Oh, look. Alright, do you guys have any last minute questions? Alright, well, I know penguins don't fly, but time does when you're having fun with them, so unfortunately it is about time to head out. So Emily's gonna do her best to kind of corral them over here, right? It's kind of like herding cats, it doesn't always work out so well.
They were all sitting there perfectly until you said it's time to go.
I know. Alright. There's a pretty good spot. You guys want to stand up slowly for me? We're going to work our way back into the corral. Someone